but perhaps because McCullum is a wicketkeeper, there'll be a pullback, if that makes sense. Aditya says, you've spoken a lot about India and Delhi turning partner into an anchor. Do you think that India did something similar with Dhoni in ODIs? I was just looking at his numbers till the 2007 World Cup, and his strike rate was in the high 90s, and past that for the rest of his career, it was in the mid 80s. Now, me and Kartikeya had a conversation recently. I think Kartikeya had Dean Jones in the top ODI player, top ODI batter in Australian cricket history. And I was a little bit surprised because, and I grew up with Dean Jones as one of my heroes. I'm from Victoria. I could go and get his book for you. It's right behind me. And I was a little bit surprised because I think there was something that me and Dan Bredig noticed, and this is before the days of Stats Guru, but probably tells you what me and Dan Bredig ended up working in cricket, is we both noticed a really clear slowdown with Dean Jones. He got to the world's best batter in T20 cricket, probably went beyond Viv. And me and Dad was probably on the wane at that point as well. Desmond Haynes was probably around that point, but Dean Jones certainly went to number one in the rankings. But also, it was hard to say he wasn't the best one-day batter in the world at that point. But he did it by playing in a way that is very similar to what we saw with someone like KP. This incredible freedom. In fact, he's a very similar play that KP. Tall, hits the ball across the line, takes a lot of calculated risk, maybe is the best way of putting it. Game theory batting is probably the way that I suppose is the best way of putting it. And so he got to number one in the world with this incredible record. And then if you have a look, he basically keeps the average at a fairly similar rate, but the strike rate drops. There's a couple of years where I think his strike rate goes down to maybe high 60s, low 70s. And he exploded in one-day cricket. And it's something that I've seen a lot of in cricket, that you see these guys come in and they explode and then they come back to earth. And I think there's a few different reasons why it happens. I think one is that once you get to that level like Dean Jones, where everyone knows where you want to hit the ball, I think there's a natural slowdown at times just because the ball's not in the position that you want it to be in as much anymore, and bowlers naturally sort of progress away from your hitting zones. I also think that there is a thing that some players do. Once they're in the team, they've got a lot more to lose than when they're trying to break in and make their mark. And I think we see that quite a lot. And I don't know with Dhoni what the situation is. I think with Pant, what you're talking about is something a lot different, because we're not talking about a small change or anything like that. And we also have coaches talking about it publicly, about them wanting more runs from him. That's a little bit different, I think, than what we saw from Dhoni and Jones. It's something I've seen for a very long time. You also, to be fair, see this in test match cricket sometimes. A player will come in, someone like David Boone or Michael Clark come to mind. I'm trying to think of someone else that's a bit like that, where they play a lot of shots early on, and then over time they turn themselves into more of a grafter, more of a consistent scorer. Some of that is their game naturally, being more rounded and them getting older and just putting a higher price on their wicket. Some of it is that bowlers don't bowl to them in the same way anymore. They don't have to make their mark by attacking as well. So it is an interesting one. I would think that Dhoni falls into more of that than anything else. But I do think that Dhoni basically was Kyron Pollard when he starts. And I think by the end of his career, he's Michael Bevan. And being that we know how much he thinks about the game and everything else, I would say there's no doubt that the bowling played a part. Perhaps the pressure of consistently making runs for India played a part. But I would say that he made a decision. And I don't know exactly why, but I'm sure there's a reason why.